The Hedgeless Horseman here. It's October the 6th, 2025. First of all, thanks to the sponsors. I thought I'd make a pretty quick video. I know I always say that, but I'm gonna try to just stick to Rackla for this one, since that's very much in the news today. What was I gonna say? So I just came home from Munich late last night, feeling pretty shitty because I barely slept and might have, maybe a cold on the way. Don't know. But it's Monday and they put out news news today. I mean, I actually, well, let's just dig into it actually. So Rackla finally put out the first holes today, Monday. I thought, I was hoping, because I had heard that they were going to put out first assays 5 to 7 days, and this was like 8 days ago or something like that. Friday I think was like 8 days. So in my mind I was like, okay, you should have them out soon, and they haven't come on Friday. Maybe they put them out on Monday, and now they did. Unfortunately, it wasn't results I was hoping for, because I had taken some money off the table, which I talked about in maybe a few videos ago, and then I added some actually last week on Friday, more importantly. So I mean, if we're talking negative compounding, minus 75% within one trading day, basically, that might be one of the quickest paper losses I've received on any buys. But right now I'm not sure what to do actually. I don't know if, and we can dig into it actually. Let's just go through what we know so far. So these are the first holes that were reported. I mean, grades like this, and this, well, all these kind of grades that are reported here, that's the kind of grades I would expect. It's like, would be maybe what you could hope for in the first blind holes, right? When the less the earlier you're drilling, or the first holes have the least information, right? Then you can kind of triangulate and figure out some zonation. So I would be expecting, as one should, that the first holes should be worse ones, but it was the intervals that really surprised. I mean, I had to re-look a few times, because like, hey, I mean, I would be expecting width like this, not this. So there's obviously gold there. There's gold in the systems, but it's like the grades you would expect from a reduced intrusion related system, but without the continuity, which is, so here's like one almost 5 meters, so 1 gram per ton. But it's like, this obviously does not cut it to have an economic deposit in this part of Yukon. And the holes that have been released are hole 1, 2, and 3. And the 7 one would be this would be the last one, I guess. Hole 10 is the last one. So these holes that are later on, like 6, 9, and 10, they're obviously much, mostly longer, not longer. Well, some I guess are longer than hole 3. That was in this news release, which had, I mean, that's not saying much, but yeah, it had 4.75 meters or 1 gram per ton. So now it's a very tricky situation, in the sense that like the price is already down. It's down 77%. So it's down to 20 cents. It's down to 20 cents. Oh, no, it's actually slightly below. They have 10 million in cash. And this is obviously, I mean, a bunch of stop losses and yada yada yada. So the enterprise value right now is around 21 million, 22 million CAD. That's what makes it tricky. Because, like, are these first assay results disappointing? Hugely disappointing. Um, and then the question is, like, is there some zonation going on? Are these first three holes representative for everything that's here, regardless of the vein density and the mention of increasing bismuth grades, or I guess more bismuth deeper down. So, like, is that gonna change something? Because we know that at the top of the ridge they trench some, and there's almost no grades, and the idea was that, well, it's probably might have very high zonation because the bismuth kind of keeps all the gold in the bismuth rich zone. Uh, and here, I mean, where you have high bismuth, well, okay, they correlate super well, I guess. And I don't know what the bismuth levels are for the. Do they have that? No. So I can really see what the bismuth levels are in the sub-economic intercepts, let's say, sub-economic grades. Not that all of these holes are sub-economic, but if you know what I mean. So it's like, is there something there? Is it zonation where it's like, oh, it's limited to, or limited? Most of the gold is in some hot pocket, like we've heard about bismuth-rich reduced intrusion-related gold system, which don't tend to be that large, but as far as I understand, but very high grades. So it does, is there are there smaller areas down here which are like high grade, but not widely disseminated gold grades? So instead of having 1 gram per ton over this area, it's stuck in really bismuth-rich zones, and you have whatever the grades are for those Chinese reduced intrusion-related gold systems, like 5 grams per ton or something. I don't know that. So that's the tricky question is here, is like, the risk already happened in a sense. I mean, we have a new reference price. The new price is 31 million, so $21 million enterprise value. So 21 million, and then the thing is, of course, that okay, if it's like not a shell, but it's like, yeah, you have a 30 million CAD junior. I mean, let's say it's gone back to discovery stage exploration now, because you can do a lot of stuff with 10 million in cash, right? So that's in the bank. So in a sense, they could be resetting the story and test the other targets with the 10 million they have. And then, of course, there is the possibility that we don't know what I think they drilled 10 holes, yeah. So there's 7 holes left to be assayed. I would expect them to be better than the first 3, but the question is, like, it's not a case where, which I thought might have been the case, that where you have like first holes might run like 300 meters or 1 gram per ton, and then the best, better ones, longer, maybe deeper ones, they're running at 200 meters or 2 grams per ton within 300 meters 1.5, that kind of escalation. But going from 1 to 1.5 to 5 meter intercepts of 1 gram per ton, I mean, how does that look? I mean, we're talking orders of magnitude in terms of mineralized width, and you only get that, I guess, if there is zonation going on. Like, I mean, you drill an epithermal system, so low sulfidation, and it's barren basically until you get into the boiling zone, and all of a sudden you can have bonanza grades and thick intervals with economic grades and all that. That's what makes it so hard, because I mean, seeing the high risk part of a high risk story play out, I mean, that sucks enough. Obviously, you were hoping that the high risk part of it wouldn't play out and the high reward part played out. But now you have a 75% paper loss since closing price of Friday. Uh, so what's going to happen from here? That's what I don't know. I mean, they have a story because they have 10 million in cash. So I mean, even if they pick a new target, maybe the one that they recently talked about, what was it, Manta, for example. I mean, they could have 10 million and spend there. So it's like the company is not finished. The question is grad finished? Because the only thing that sucks more than seeing a big paper loss, for example, is when you sell low and then it goes up. I mean, it's basically why I try to keep people from selling low in this sector overall the last especially 2 years, because if you bought in high, one could say that's a mistake, I guess. I mean, I bought every high in this sector because I don't try to time the market, but I cannot afford to sell low in that case. So obviously the nightmare scenario in Rackla is that you take the hit on the 3 first holes, and then for some reason the next 7 holes are good or encouraging or whatever. It's like, oh, there's actually hope for the grad target or bite zone, and then it's like, oh, then I took the loss, sold it at 20 cents, and then the next 7 holes are actually good or something, and it's back on, and so you took a fat paper loss, transferred that to a paper loss you monetized the loss, and then you ended up selling low because of the 7 last holes that were actually not as bad as these. So you were only on board for the loss, but but missed out then on the upturn from the 7 other holes. And I don't know what that's gonna happen. I'm just saying, it's like that's what makes this situation so tricky. Where we're down to everything resets in a sense. I mean, every case is different depending on what the price is, and we have news out. Plus, we have a big price change in reaction to this. So now we are here. The new reality is that the market cap is 31.7 million, and they have around 10 million in cash. That's Rackla today. That wasn't Rackla Friday. Rackla today is this, plus the accounting for the news, of course. So, I mean, it would be easier if Rackla only had grad and no cash left. Yeah. So it's like, well, even if they have another project, or even if they, there's nothing really they can do to there's nothing really you can do to surprise to the upside. Know what I mean? That's what makes it tricky. So I'm not 100% sure myself, because I don't like paper losses. I hate selling low even more. That's the problem. But at the same time, if there's somewhere else that you think offers better risk reward, then it's actually value creative or return creative to sell, regardless of how much you're down on something, and put that in some other case. Because just not selling for the sake of not selling low, or it's like, I'm not going to sell until I'm back to break even. I mean, that's not rational either. So that's what makes this so hard. I mean, I would, and I expect them to, talk some about these results, because I'm not a reduced intrusion related gold expert. And we know from Valley, for example, we know from, was it the Ogre? No, Astro, I think, that Rackla drilled, where they had high vein densities. This was like a year ago or something, maybe 2 years ago. High vein densities. I think they even had maybe even better results than this on that. But hey, high vein density still didn't really translate. Well, it didn't translate into kinda, you know, I mean, given the high vein densities, they were on par with Snowland Gold, Valley's deposit, and that sure didn't have Valley type grades. But at the same time, at Valley, you can be in the intrusion, but there I still think mostly it's vein density. Vein densities correlating with what the grade is going to be. But outside of the high grade core now, all that they have intervals of like 0.2 grams per ton over long intervals. So that's not really in this. That's not really in this news release here. So it's like it would, I think, be nice to know if there's long intervals of like 0.2 or something, or if it's literally like everything is like sub 0.1 except for these intervals. I mean, is there a big golden cloud, or and what does that say about zonation? I actually don't know. I mean, would you want more sporadic economic type grades, or would you want a big fat uneconomic cloud that you hit? What does that say for, let's say, deeper potential deeper in the system, where the chemistry and temperature was different, and how does the bismuth grades play into that? Does that mean it could have captured more of the locked up more of the gold, but you have to find the even more bismuth rich zone or something like that? That's what I don't know. So it would be great to hear from the company. But I'm not sure myself actually what I want to do here with this new price and enterprise value, and with this new news release, because there obviously is some. Well, for starters, there all of a sudden a early stage explorer, if you take away grad, with 10 million in cash, and with some other produce properties could pick something up. So it's like long term they have 10 million to do stuff with. So it's not a killed company, which makes the decision even harder in a sense. And then fact is that there are 7 holes left, so we don't really know the whole picture even at grad yet. And hole 2 is down here, so I mean that's pretty deep. But the question is like, yeah, hole 4, 6 and 7 is like, they are obviously deeper. Is that gonna change anything? Is there some kind of zonation going on? Does it change because it's bismuth rich, or is it zonation to the west or east, or is there no economic gold here? Regardless of where you drill in this RIRGS system. That's why it's like there's many unknowns right now. The only thing we know is the price. The only thing we know right now is the market price and enterprise value. And I don't know what the next 7 holes are gonna be, and I don't know what they might find at Mant or any other projects. But then we're talking more of a longer term case in a sense. If I mean, it's like, okay, I'm gonna come back in 5 years, even if grad ends up being worthless. They might have made a discovery somewhere else with that $10 million, etc., and you have a success on your hands. But then we're talking, a longer term case where you actually discount grad and whatever, just hodl or think you're gonna, make another discovery. Or do you bite the bullet and assume that the 7 other holes are not gonna hit anything either, and it's basically, for all intents and purposes are gonna, kill grad? And then do you want to stick around for the long-term case? I don't know myself. That's what makes investing tricky. And of course, you're gonna have a shit ton of Schadenfreude and I mean, there's no shortage in hindsight investors pointing out how smart they were, that they were not in it or whatever, and yet the shorts is like 84,000. So nobody knew what was gonna happen. So that's why. I mean, if they would have hit, it's like, I mean, new break which recently hit a good intercept. I'm not in there saying that. Yeah, I knew they were gonna hit. Look how smart I am. I didn't know they were gonna hit. It was a high risk punt. They ended up hitting. So that, I mean, that's also a tell where it's like you know that, I mean, anybody that goes on a Schadenfreude parade basically, trying to say how smart they were to not have been in it. Either they have no idea how to speculate, invest in a high risk, high reward sector, or well, that's probably true anyway because most people don't make any money in the sector. But my point is like, there's no point in taking insults and stuff seriously, because if all of these knew it, the short count would be a lot higher because they would actually be betting on this 100% guarantee that grads assays wouldn't be as good as the context looked. Because again, it's like with Condor from a context perspective, and a lot of people bring up Condor, which is, I mean, fine. It's like, as always, people tend to they just want to remember other people's mistakes, right? I mean, that's why these tabloid magazines sell so well, and it's always, what celebrity has a drug problem or something, because it makes people feel good about themselves, seeing if they can in their head at least see that other people are doing bad or whatever. I mean, that's the idea behind those magazines to begin with. But again, if somebody asked for example, like, why did this have a high market cap? And as I point out, extensive veining, high talus in gold numbers, and excellent trench result in the footprint drill was large for the main ones. Great pre-assay context, basically. So that's the thing. That's why it's like you shouldn't really take paper profits, especially in high reward cases, too personal, and not losses either. It's like the context is the context, regardless of what the results is. If somebody showed me grad, it's like, just going back to before we had an assays, long talus anomaly with high grade gold numbers. I mean, I personally didn't care. I mean, I didn't put too much emphasis on the grades of the talus numbers, but it's like, okay, there's, looks like there's gold being shed, right, over a very large strike length, and they kept increasing the target, and we know the veining kept going outside of the main bite zone. I think it was up to 800 meters, because we know the news release where they said 300 meters of more veining was encountered as they went farther off the bite zone. So the footprint has been absolutely huge, high talus numbers, extremely high bismuth numbers, or abnormally high bismuth numbers, and how bismuth and gold works together, that bismuth probably scavenged gold, and etc. So as I did a tweet, it's like, it's not my largest position, but it's absolutely one of the most fascinating ones. So the context was good, and the biggest thing for me was the trench sample, or the channel sample. 38 meters of 1.8 grams per ton, if I'm not mistaken. Within that, it was a sub-interval of like 5 meters of 6 grams per ton, or 6 meters of 5 grams per ton, something like that. That was the biggest thing for me. That they did a channel cut that had those kind of grades. And they even, that's the thing also, like they drilled underneath that in, I think, hole 1, basically underneath. And they came up with not much, but high bismuth numbers though. So again, it's like I'm not too hard on myself, because at least I learned from Condor that I was too greedy with Condor. I'm being greedy in many other cases. But I was a bit greedy on Friday when I added. But this doesn't kill the portfolio. And it's also at least a good reminder that, and I'm not talking hindsight investing, for example. A lot of people you see in here today, you would never see them post if first assays were like 300 meters or 1.5 grams per ton, and Rackla is up 100% on the way to $1.5 billion. You would never see these people being here, because then they couldn't do their hindsight investing thing. But that's just how it is. It's like when you add, well, first of all, people who haven't been on board on the climb, they obviously don't like to see it go up. So I mean, envy is like what drives the world in a sense. What was I gonna say? So yeah, I don't. I think this was a pretty obvious bet with the context. It's like I wrote nobody knew what the chance of success was, but as I wrote in my article, it's like, to me, I have to believe there was like 30% chance of grad being as good as it looks. And in that case, let's say 70% risk that it's gonna underwhelm, and you have a 60% paper loss. I mean, from the share price at this point, today's price might be a 60% paper loss, but 60-75, I mean, a big loss. And then you know you're not going all in, right? Because it is a high risk, high reward. That's why it's like, when we get the reward side, you have to ride it hard, because there's going to be many of the high risk that don't end up proving at the high reward side. The high risk shows up, but it's completely wrong way to go about it, thinking that like a lot of people are doing today, that you could have known it, whatever. Again, just going to point to what the short count is. If everybody knew, it was weird that nobody was betting on it. Well, almost nobody. So it's like nobody knew what it's going to be. People are making bets, and now the ones that weren't in it but not betting against it, so they didn't miss out on something, but now it feels good seeing they did not miss out on something, and they're obviously in basically beating their chest or throwing salt in the wound and whatever. You see a lot of shitting on Quinton, Bob, Crescat, which just goes to show it's like most people have no what was I gonna say? Crescat was invested, Quinton is invested, Bob is invested, Alex Gubin's invested, I'm invested, a lot of you probably invested. It's like it speaks for itself. We take bets. The higher the risk, or the high risk, high reward cases, you're gonna have a lot of losers, as that's part of the game, high risk, high reward. It always blows my mind that people think that a 10 bagger is something that should be guaranteed. It's like if we were only high risk, high reward stories, and we had a 50% hit rate. That like every high risk of half of the high risk stories were gonna end up like Snowland Gold. We were pretty rich by now. You might need, depending on, I mean, if Rackla was as, or grad, if it was as good as it looks, and let's say assume it's not going to be as good as it looks, meaning let's in this scenario assume that the next 7 holes is not going to be enough. Even if they're better, let's say it's not enough, or they're simply, even if they drill 10 holes more, you're not going to find something. So we write grad off in this scenario. What if grad was as good as it looks? What if it was a valley or even plus, given that the footprint was actually larger than valley, and you have, what is it, 1.8 kilometers away, you also have high grade bismuth and gold on the other side of the mountain. So in that case, let's say Rackla is at 1.5 billion in 2 years from whatever it was, the market cap before today's flush. That would be a, what's that? Let's say, I don't know, 8-bagger or something. If you could have every other company being an 8-bagger in 2 years, obviously you would have absurdly good returns. So I don't know what the chance of success was here. Nobody knows. I just thought with the context, yeah, that's worth a bet to me, even if I'm taking pre-assay risk. And of course, I mean, if you're not in it, that's if you're not in it, you don't have the upside exposure, right? That's the thing. Shareholders going into maiden assays, for example, you have the chance of there being a discovery or whatever, barn burner assays, or confirming a discovery, whatever the case might be. So if it outperforms or are positive, you're gonna make money. You make money. None of the bystanders make any money. But flip side being, you also might be in for a flash like this. So you get that's the high risk, high reward idea. And then again, like always, people are all whatever, like, oh, throwing so much shit at well, anybody really that's been long. But again, that's like you can't really put too much weight on that stuff, because like I've been saying a long time, like you either you want to make money or look smart. Most people don't make any money, so they want to look smart instead, right? Because that's at least like ego stroking in a sense, and pretending that everybody knows everything, and why everybody's dumb, because like everything was a foregone conclusion. It's like you don't want to look at these guys' portfolios. It's like I don't think I've ever posted in a company that drilled, and let's say they didn't live up to expectations, and like, yeah, I told you so. Why? Because I didn't possibly know. I never shorted a junior stock in my life. That's the thing. Everybody that says they know it, they don't. If they knew it, they would be making a lot of money. That's just not how it is. So again, it's like this is the reality of the high risk, high reward portion of the portfolio. Some are gonna under deliver, some are gonna over deliver. Given that what upside some of them have, you don't need to be right on many to have a high, profitable high risk, high reward portfolio. You do have to run with the reward side more than most people do, I would say. And then of course, I mean, not to be shell shocked and all of that. And it's like, oh, well, just going with the knee-jerk reaction, for example, that oh, they missed, we have a big sell-off, that's it, I'm out. It's like to actually think. I haven't really decided. I'm watching the market obviously play out right now, and there's like 1.66 million shares traded already, so huge volume. And then or like people who might be, let's say they're laughing at Alex Gubbins, for example. It's like, oh, and again, everybody that's long and been very positive that they're pumpers or scammers or whatever. It's like, well, look at Gubbins, how well they did in Snowline, for example. They made much more money in Snowline than or let's say, I don't know if it was him or a family, but it's like, I don't know how much they're up in Snowline. Much more than they lost in Rackla, I'm pretty sure. Or like Eric Sprott says, when in our interview not too long ago, where because he gets so much shit because he's in every stock, and during the bear market every one of those were down, and he's like, don't feel too bad for Uncle Eric. Uncle Eric is doing fine. Why? Because some of his stories he's up hundreds of millions on. He made $1 billion in Kirkland Lake. You don't need a single one to make it out. Let's say you are in whatever. Take just a reduced intrusion gold place. Let's say you bet on Snowline, Sitka, and Rackla, for example. You made so much money in Snowline that you could plane 10 Racklas from the levels we saw on Friday, and you still maybe be in profit. What does that say again about high risk, high reward portfolios? You don't need if you expect to get a 10 bagger in every high risk, high reward story, that you're absolutely delusional. So yeah, I mean, I hope. I mean, it stings today, of course. But yes, going back, I can't see how I would play it much differently. It's like in Condor, I had way too big of a position. That was the context looked good. I think this was actually even more de-risked because there was this, channel sample and all that, and the confirmed Dane density, and etc. So this was, I would say, more de-risked compared to Condor, and I still had more percentage in Condor at the time. But yeah, the whole folios, they're probably, I don't know what their Rackla position is, 2%, I think. So they might be down 1.6%. Which is obviously not great, but it's not a portfolio killer. But now the position sizes might then be down to whatever 0.5%. So I'm not. Yeah, I haven't decided yet what to do, because I just hate selling low. But at the same time, if grad is absolutely over, and I haven't really actually put that much thought into Manta or the other targets yet. Grad was what the Rackla rise obviously has been about. Yeah, I'm just not sure what. It's like I told my brothers, like we're either gonna be down 60%, is actually up, down more than that. Down 60% or up 100% on the way to something. Other than that's as far as I could go with predicting what's going to happen in Rackla. So yeah, but it does bring up an interesting point. It's an interesting case then, because now we have, again, now we get kicked in the teeth, share price wise. It's like, okay, what do you do then? I'm talking from like calm, collective, what makes sense. If it's a sell, one should be selling. If it's a clear buy, one should be buying. Should one take some money off the table, etc. So I would really like to hear, maybe they do an interview or something where they talk about it, because like I would like to know, shed some light on, is there a possibility that there is that kind of zonation going on, and the pros and cons, let's say, for the next and last 7 out of the 10 holes, could they be different than these holes, and why? I mean, it's a special system, so I mean, I think one could say that. So it's a bit of an unconventional, let's say, reduced intrusion really goes in, because it looks like the carapace is fully intact and all that. So it's like, what does this all mean? So that's why it's like, I haven't made my mind up yet. I think they will shed some light on it. I hope in that case that maybe the sentiment and thought about the case is like, no, there's still, this isn't over, because there might be that kind of zonation. But if they write it off, like, well, they're gonna assay the holes anyway. But if we get sense like there's probably no chance that this will actually amount to anything now, just based on the first 3 holes, that's gonna obviously be a bummer, because then you can't count on grad, or let's say you put down the odds of the last 6 holes coming up with something that increases the odds of this being an economic deposit here down to like 10% or something. Then you might 90% discount grad, and now all of a sudden the market cap and enterprise value is for the rest of the portfolio. Then you have to think, how excited are you about the other targets, and then compare that to, let's say, an intact story that you have much more conviction on, because that's the thing. There was a case, there was a Rackla risk reward and a Rackla case last Friday, and today, Monday, with additional information plus a completely different price, you have a totally new story. That's the thing. Totally new story, totally different risk reward, starting off from a much lower price point. Makes it maybe even more high. I mean, obviously, if they do end up finding something economic, it's a much bigger reward from 37 million than 137 million. But what is the risk? If one believe it was a 30% chance of a economic value type discovery going into these assays, what is it down to now? Is it down to 10, 5%? I don't know. I don't know. So to me, you can't get much. Let's say, that's my 2 cents, I guess. That I don't know. I don't really know what to do here. Because the most, what was I gonna say? It was a more obvious case going into maiden assays, because then everything was still very much alive and all that. Now it's become a complicated story, but the price is down so much that, like, okay, is it a sell after minus 73.6%? And I don't know, and I can't tell you what I might sell some, take some money off the table. I might hold. Well, right now I'm not that keen on buying more, but some additional, let's say, context, let's say an interview where they say, show or why this next 7 holes might be better, maybe I'll actually add to it. So I guess what I'm really trying to say is that I don't know if this is a hold, buy, sell, or partial sale right now. And as such, I haven't done any trading in any portfolio yet because I can't tell. So I'm saying this because I don't want to say like, yeah, of course, of course I'm buying here because this next 7 holes they're gonna probably deliver and we're gonna make much more money from these levels than the next levels. And 20 minutes later I'm selling after doing a video like that. That's pump and dump. So that's why I'm saying I actually don't know. I haven't done anything yet. I don't know what exactly I'm gonna do. I know there's 3 options: selling, buying, holding. And I don't know right now, and that might change with interview or heck some comments in here from some knowledgeable if the what was I gonna say, point out that there's potential for that kind of zonation thing, that there's still might be an economic deposit there, but not where the first 3 holes were drilled. Yeah, I again I don't know. I'm very surprised though. This is really big surprise. I mean, even I actually thought I was kind of pessimistic in this. I internally I probably put it at over 60%, but I think it's a good idea to be more conservative than, because I drink my own Kool-Aid. So it's like, okay, if I think it's 50-50, it might be 25%. And sometimes that's still enough. Because if there is a 30%, if there was a 30% chance, that's still a relatively good bet. Well, depends on actually when you Friday is like, okay, if it only quote only opens up 100% and 30%, so 1 in 3 is gonna double. 2 out of 3, I mean, if they're gonna go down 75%, that's not a great short-term risk reward though. Whereas like obviously if you played it out and the success case, yes, it went up 100%, but then up 600% within 2 years. That would more than pay for the 2 out of 3 that ended up failing and killing the target instead. Yeah, anyway, I thought I would want to put this out there. It's sometimes more fun to, well, maybe not more fun, but it's like, this is how to deal with negative outcomes is such a big part of the high risk high reward investing journey, that one really, yeah, I mean, it should take up a lot of one's time to think about it. And this just happens to be one where I'm very much, I was feeling much more confident and in having exposure going into the maiden assays, whereas like now I don't know, even with this new much lower share price, that there's not a clear, yeah, again, that's the thing, it's not a clear one. Maybe I should sell something if I'm not clear. It's just the nagging feeling is always like, oh, I take a big paper loss and then sell it, making it a real loss, and then the next 7 holes are actually good, and yeah, that's obviously the nightmare scenario from a regret standpoint. But we shouldn't invest based on potential regret scenarios either. If it makes sense to be selling now, one should sell. And if it happens to that the 7 next holes actually deliver and you missed out on a quick 200% and it actually does turn into a big success, yeah, it's gonna suck big time. But that's hindsight investing. That's the thing. It's like, you can't, if you play aces and you win, and you play aces and you lose, playing aces was still rational regardless of the result. So we can't just look at Hindsight like a lot of people are doing now and basically saying how right they were, yada yada. Because you can check into, I mean, any poster that does the Schadenfreude, like told you so stuff, I mean, go look through their posting histories. You can find stuff to say, well, if you were one of those guys, you could find stuff to, cases to shit on them in. And I don't think that's productive at all. And that also goes to, I'm not mad at anyone. I'm not really mad at myself either, because I think it made sense to have exposure going into the maiden assays because how good it looked. And as soon as I start, I was like the Moriarty interview where he was so optimistic recently. That got me kind of excited, and it's like, oh, maybe I'm playing it a bit, too small, and bought some. But I'm 100% sure he was he was just honest about his bullishness, let's say. And if the results would have been spectacular, it's like, then I would be obviously glad I bought some extra. My point is, I have no the second I try to blame someone else outside of myself for anything, in this case I don't blame myself. I don't think it was a mistake to hold into essays, but blaming others, that's just saying that I've never done that. I've never sent an angry email to anyone, and I've lost quite a bit of money in quote hot tips or other people's very high conviction stories, and that's fine. I would only be pissed if I thought somebody actually was like straight up lying to me, if you know what I mean. If I was de facto exit liquidity, and I was, get used in the sense that, okay, I don't understand the case as much, so you can tell me something and I trust you, so you can tell me anything and I'm gonna buy it. And it works because I didn't know how whatever bad it was. No, this is just part of the course. It's like water under the bridge, spilled milk. We can't let that affect you. It's like in poker. Whenever you lost a big hand, if you went on tilt, that's how you really lose money, not from actually losing big pots. It's when you start to play bad in every pot because you lost one. So it's a completely, it's a new day. We're gonna have loads of disappointments in this space, not just from the sentiment and all that, but actual news items like these, and that comes with the territory. If you want to play the higher reward potential, quick higher reward potential, the stores that can go up a lot in a short time period are the ones that come with high risk. So if you want the potential to have those, you're also by default playing in the high risks cases where this kind of stuff can happen, and it will happen. This will for sure not be the last early stage exploration play that does not live up to expectations. I do think this was one of the it's like Goliath, also a pre-drill assay play. Context looks super good, outcropping mineralization, that ended up working out, and it's up, I don't know, 10x from 30 cents or 40 cents or whatever it was. That's one that succeeded, and it went up 10x. Snowline, one that succeeded and is up 30x, I don't know, a lot at least. Rackla might be one that failed. Condor Pucamayo failed. But again, if you look at the ones that actually have good context or say, but they work out, you can get 10 to 30x. But you're also going to have, and the cost is that some of them will be not living up to expectations and losing up to 100% on them. But if you make 3, 4, 5, 10, 20x on some, I mean, how many losers are that going to pay for? That's why you have to play enough of them in a sense to some actually working out. To have only 2 high risk, high reward stories doesn't really add up, because if the chance of success is even like 20% or 30% on average, you need more than 2 stories for one to statistically work out. Yeah, so I think it was obviously timely to talk about. My point is, I don't know myself. I haven't made a decision what to do, and that might change within the next 24 hours depending if they put something out or somebody talks about it, or they interview the CEO or yada yada, or some poster here is talking to someone. It's like a lot can change in short order. But yeah, to be honest, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. Anyway, thanks for listening. Consider me biased. I still own shares. Family's portfolio still own shares. And the company is a banner sponsor. And again, don't take this as I'm not telling you to buy here because it's down. Because if I'm selling, that's not good at all. That's why I don't know what to do. I might sell, I might buy, or might partially sell or something like that. I haven't decided yet. So again, if you think I'm using you for exit liquidity, please don't buy this stock. Always do your due diligence. I wish the answer results would have been a lot better. So yeah, everyone of us that are in Rackla are having, regardless if one will blow up the portfolio, it's like it's still a big number to be down in one story, even if it's a few percent of the portfolio or 1% or whatever it is. Anyway, thanks for listening. Otherwise, I hope you're doing well, and let's some fingers crossed both for Rackla and rest of the portfolio. Thank you. Bye.